Hi, my name is Elle-Rose and I am an artist from Perth, WA. I have to excuse myself, I've got a little bit of a funny voice at the moment, but I'm fine. This video that we're about to watch is all about the creation and coming together of an artwork that was commissioned by a lady named Hannah, using flowers from her wedding. They were put together and created by Elle-Rose from Signature Flora, who is one of the best florists in Perth, in my humble opinion. Before we start, the outline for this commission was quite loose. She'd given me a size and a really rough idea of which flowers she liked. And then from there, I just kind of created whatever felt right to my heart. So very, very in love with this piece, and I really hope you enjoy watching it. Before we get started though, if you are new to this channel or coming over from Instagram, I would really appreciate you liking this video and commenting down below on wherever you've come from and what you really loved about this video, or what you would like to see in my channel. It'll really help me continue to create the artwork that I really love bringing you guys. Thank you so much, and let's get started.
This is my mold. I've created it with some pine lengths that I've coated in some plastic tape, which then seals it against resin. It's cold here at the moment. Resin is sort of like honey in that when it's cold, it gets quite thick. And because it's so thick, when you mix it, it's more likely to take on air bubbles. So what I do is I measure out how much resin I need, and it's a 2-part ratio. And then I put the whole thing into bain-marie system. So for this, it was a pot that was just big enough to hold water that goes kind of almost to the top of the resin line. That allows the resin to warm up just incrementally as I'm mixing it. Now that I've poured my resin into the mold, apologies, I did not film this, I make sure that it's no deeper than about 2 mil. I don't want it any deeper than that because what happens is the really fine detailed little tiny flowers, they float, and we want to avoid that at all costs. So go over it with a heat gun and just remove all of those surface bubbles, and also kind of create a little bit of warmth so that the bubbles that are at the bottom want to rise. Once I've done that, at least once, I go over it with a pop stick and push it around to all of the sides. This just allows it sort of to seal all of the mold so that when I do subsequent layers that are thicker, they're less likely to leak out. And choosing the first flower is always a bit difficult. I don't know, I've got this weird thing where it just kind of like clicks when I know that I've got the right flower. So often you'll see me sort of hovering, and I figure it out eventually. And once I've found like a starting point, it all sort of just rolls. This client was super sweet, and when I got the picture from the florist, I was super shocked because it was this real, unconventional match of colors, which was actually amazing. But it just took me by surprise because it was, these yellows and purples and red, which I didn't actually get any of. So I was quite eager to actually start working with it and see these colors come together. So I loved these little lilacs, which are quite a faint purple. I mean, they're obviously lilac color, but they're just these cutest little dainty flowers, which I love. And then also these amaranthus stems, which I love creating these really sort of swirly patterns with, but you have to do that while you're drying them. You can't do that after the fact. What you can see here is me using a very thin paintbrush to remove some of the excess silica gel that has become stuck to the plant. Sometimes this happens with particularly small flowers that might have a little bit of residue on them. It is possible to remove it, but you've got to be super careful and not actually break the flower in the process. What will happen then is resin will actually move into the flower membrane, I guess, and cause this sort of bruising and ugliness, which I want to avoid at all costs. I was quite inspired by one of the ceiling decorations that Elle-Rose from Signature Floral, which honestly one of my favorite florists in Perth. I love getting her work, and this piece was just epic. It would just had so much detail and so much color and it felt joyful. So I was really inspired by that, this idea of a floating, I guess, cloud of all sorts of different flowers. So as a kid, I would often dream about flying and being like weightless. I actually wonder how much Super Mario has to play in that, because I loved Super Mario. The concept of gravity not being there, or not being powerful enough to pull me down as it does at the moment, is something I play with a lot in my work. It's one of those uncontrollable factors in our lives that we often don't even question. I like to wonder what it would feel like to jump up on things and to bounce really, really high. And I spent a lot of time questioning reality and the rules we have to follow. So now I'm often trying to capture this feeling of weightlessness and floating, and sort of the idea of things being in midair and being of their own sort of gravitational pull. I loved the idea of this, floating cloud-like thing that Annalise had created, and I really wanted to sort of embellish on that and make this sort of floating, ephemeral artwork that sort of was somehow fluffy and somehow solid, but not at the same time. It was awesome to work with all of these tiny little textures and details. You've got these little tiny, round, fluffy-ish snowballs and the lilacs, but then you've also got these slightly different, they almost look squishy and like teddy bear amaranthus, and then next to that you've got these really thin and delicate wispy orchids, which are just completely in opposition to these massive phalaenopsis and the roses. All the colors were just so rich, so statement, and I was just having so much fun working with all of that and bringing in this harmony. Now, unfortunately, I was still starting with film when I made this piece, and so I didn't take any further film of this piece getting created, but you can see here the very final result of the deep piece that I've created, and I just absolutely love the details and also the delicacy and just the simplicity of it. So now you've seen all the work that went into that piece and heard about all the story behind it. I hope you enjoyed it and you've learnt something, even just a little bit. I would love to hear what you think. So be sure to put a like down the bottom and enter some comments, because I'm just starting out my journey and I would really love some feedback. Thank you so much again, and I will see you soon. Bye. All right, I'm a deck. I don't know what I'm doing.